as President Trump said that he plans to substantially raise tariffs on India because of its purchases of Russian oil. Trump didn't say how much he would raise the levies, but it does add to the already announced 25% rate last week, one of the highest of all the major economies. He vowed to add more duties if India continues to buy oil from Russia, but India says it's being unfairly targeted.
Trump didn't just threaten India. He warned of even harsher tariffs over its Russian oil purchases. Watch this. That wasn't political theater. It was a warning shot aimed at global markets. In the next few minutes, you'll see why India is reacting. Investors are panicking, and the trade war stakes just went nuclear. Donald Trump just slapped new oil tariffs on India, and it wasn't a slow buildup or a public warning. It was a sudden, calculated strike. Within hours, Indian energy markets were in turmoil, U.S. trade officials were scrambling to contain backlash, and Modi's administration went silent. Trump's move, announced during a high-stakes rally in Texas, was pitched as putting America first again. But this time, it wasn't about China or Mexico. It was about punishing India for what he called manipulative energy practices and unfair subsidies that kill American jobs. The crowd erupted, but the global oil markets didn't. They staggered. Crude prices jumped 6% overnight. Refineries in Gujarat and Maharashtra saw their import cost projections shoot through the roof. And just like that, a dormant trade tension between the world's largest and third largest oil consumers exploded into a full-blown diplomatic standoff. But here's the twist. This isn't just about oil. Trump's move came hours after a leaked internal memo from his campaign revealed frustration with India's growing oil trade with Russia. A deal that lets India buy cheap Russian crude, refine it, and sell it globally, including to the U.S. Trump's allies are calling it oil laundering. His critics? They're warning that he's walking into a geopolitical minefield. By imposing these tariffs, Trump may be trying to send a message, not just to India, but to Moscow too. That message? You can't outplay American dominance on my watch. But India isn't folding. According to senior officials, the Modi government is preparing retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agricultural exports, specifically products from swing states like Iowa and Wisconsin. This could be a direct hit to Trump's voter base, and that's not even the most dangerous part. Some insiders suggest that New Delhi may begin fast-tracking defense and energy deals with nations like Iran and China, something the U.S. has desperately tried to block for years. So the question is, did Trump just play a masterstroke, or did he overplay his hand? Because if this spirals, we're not just looking at a trade war, we're looking at a shift in global alliances, and the White House knows it. That's why officials have refused to disclose the full tariff list. But we've obtained pieces of it, and some of the names on there will shock you. India now faces an impossible choice: bow to Trump's economic aggression or risk losing strategic leverage in a rapidly polarizing world. The newly announced U.S. oil tariffs have put Prime Minister Modi in a chokehold, economically and politically. At the heart of the crisis is India's delicate balancing act between its growing alliance with the West and its critical energy ties with nations like Russia and Iran. And now Trump's latest move threatens to shatter that equilibrium. The tariffs are not just about oil, they're about control, about dominance. India, already the world's third largest oil importer, is being told where it can buy from, how much it should pay, and who it must align with. That's not trade, that's coercion. And New Delhi is not taking it lightly. Behind closed doors, Indian ministers are scrambling to assess the fallout. One leaked conversation from a senior official reportedly stated, "This isn't negotiation, this is blackmail with diplomatic gloss." India had only just begun diversifying its oil basket, securing deals with Venezuela and increasing purchases from Russia at discounted rates. But those moves clashed directly with U.S. foreign policy, especially Trump's push to isolate what he calls anti-American regimes. These tariffs now function as a warning shot, a message that cooperation with U.S. rivals comes at a cost. But India isn't just any nation. With its massive population, rapidly growing economy, and increasing geopolitical weight, It's not used to being told what to do. Modi's administration is reportedly considering retaliatory tariffs of its own and is quietly engaging China to explore alternative trade routes. The contradiction is glaring. Trump once praised Modi as a close ally and economic partner, but now he's turning the screws, threatening billions in bilateral trade over oil pricing and purchases. It's not just Trump's unpredictability, it's his strategy. By making India a test case, Trump sends a broader message to the world: align with US oil policy or face consequences. But here's the irony. These strong-arm tactics could push India closer to the very alliances the US is trying to weaken. If Trump's goal was to isolate China and Russia, this move may do the exact opposite. So now the question looms: will India comply, retaliate, or pivot entirely toward a new axis of power? The decision must come fast. Global markets are already reacting, and pressure is mounting from within Modi's own coalition. But the real twist? Trump's tariff might be part of something even bigger, a hidden energy agenda few are talking about. And what's coming next could shake more than just India. So here's where things get even more volatile. While India recalibrates quietly, Trump isn't just playing offense abroad, he's trying to score political points at home. The tariffs aren't just about oil or trade, they're about headlines. Trump's 2025 campaign is already leaning on a strong man narrative: punish foreign nations, protect American jobs, bring supply chains home. And with India being the third largest oil importer globally, targeting it gives him the optics of taking on a giant without directly challenging China or OPEC. But here's the contradiction. US oil producers aren't cheering. In fact, domestic oil lobbies are privately furious. They rely on export markets like India to offload surplus, especially with slowing demand from Europe. These tariffs could choke off billions in revenue, and some Texas-based companies are already signaling layoffs if Indian contracts fall through. So the real gamble? Trump is risking American energy jobs to stage a political stunt that may not even land with voters. And there's another layer: US refineries. Many of them process specific grades of crude that come from India and the Middle East. Disrupting that flow could send refining costs higher, which directly hits gas prices. Imagine fuel prices spiking in election year, the kind of backlash no candidate wants. Economists have already started sounding the alarm. JP Morgan analysts estimate a potential 7 to 10% increase in domestic gas prices if India enforces counter tariffs. That would punch average Americans in the wallet, all because of a tariff war driven by political optics, not long-term strategy. But it's not just about prices, it's about perception. Trump is selling strength, but India isn't folding. They're playing the long game, securing energy from Russia, Iran, and even African nations, building a more diversified oil portfolio that could, ironically, make them less dependent on the US for the next decade. So while Trump tries to corner Modi, he might be accelerating the very shift away from American energy dominance he claims to fight against. And the kicker? Inside Washington, even Republican lawmakers are split. Some back the tough talk, but others, especially those with oil state constituencies, are calling this a dangerous miscalculation. The energy sector's quiet pressure on Congress is growing, and if Trump doesn't shift gears, we could see a rare intra-party fracture that weakens his grip just months before the election. But all of that might pale in comparison to what India is planning next, because sources are now pointing to something far more disruptive than tariffs. And if true, it could flip the entire global energy balance on its head. While Trump's base cheers the move as America first in action, economic experts are warning of a silent ripple effect, one that might hit American consumers harder than anyone's willing to admit. The moment tariffs go up, oil companies react fast. Crude oil is a global commodity, and any restriction on imports from a major supplier like India means fewer options, tighter markets, and higher prices. It's not just gas at the pump, it's diesel for trucks, jet fuel for airlines, and even the price of manufacturing, which all lean heavily on cheap oil to function smoothly. Trump's strategy assumes India will blink first, that they'll lower prices or find workarounds. But Delhi has already hinted they won't be bullied. A top Indian official went on record just hours after the announcement stating, "India is not dependent. If Trump wants a price war, we've played that game before." That's not empty talk. India has been quietly building deeper oil ties with Russia, Iran, and even Venezuela, all countries on America's geopolitical hit list. So, if Trump pushes too hard, India could just pivot harder away from US alliances, undercutting not just trade, but long-term diplomacy. And here's where things get messy. This isn't just about India. Other countries are watching closely. Brazil, Indonesia, and even parts of the Middle East are already nervous. If Trump is willing to slap tariffs on a major strategic ally like India over oil, who's next? It sends a chilling message. Loyalty doesn't matter if the numbers don't work. That fear could trigger a new wave of tariff-proofing, where countries hedge their bets away from US markets, diversify partnerships, and accelerate moves toward de-dollarization, a trend already worrying Wall Street. Trump may believe he's flexing power, but some analysts argue he's overplaying his hand. Tariffs worked as a shock tool during his first term, but in 2025, the world's prepared. They've learned how to adapt, retaliate, and retaliate without firing a single bullet. The bigger question now, will India simply absorb the blow or strike back in ways Trump isn't expecting? India's response is now becoming more calculated and more dangerous. Behind closed doors, New Delhi isn't just re-evaluating trade deals. It's quietly laying the groundwork for a new energy alliance, possibly one that cuts the US out of the picture entirely. Leaks from Indian diplomatic circles suggest that Modi's government is now accelerating talks with Russia and Middle Eastern oil giants to bypass the traditional US-linked petrodollar system. If that happens, we're not just talking about a trade spat, we're looking at the potential unraveling of America's long-held oil leverage in South Asia. And that's not all. Sources inside India's Commerce Ministry have reportedly recommended retaliatory tariffs on US agricultural goods and tech imports. That means US farmers and tech exporters, key voter blocs in battleground states, could start feeling the pressure just in time for the next election cycle. The political timing couldn't be worse for Trump. As he positions himself as the candidate who'll bring jobs back and reduce foreign dependence, this oil tariff may backfire politically if it starts costing US jobs and triggering inflation at the pump. And while Trump's messaging machine is spinning this move as America first, economists are warning that a tit-for-tat escalation with India could rattle investor confidence and further destabilize global energy markets. The irony? India was one of the few major economies still maintaining a balancing act between US and BRICS interests. But this tariff decision may shove them further into the BRICS corner, right alongside China, Russia, and Iran, all of whom would love to see America's trade grip weaken. Even more unsettling, Indian oil refiners are reportedly exploring a dramatic step, pricing future oil deals in rupees or yuan, completely sidestepping the dollar. If that catches on in other countries, Trump's tariff might unintentionally spark a financial shift that erodes dollar dominance globally. And remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum. China is watching. Saudi Arabia is watching. And if they see India successfully resist US pressure while building new energy routes, a domino effect could follow. That's how quickly a single tariff decision can spiral into a global currency and trade realignment. So where does this all go next? Will Trump double down and risk isolating the US from one of the fastest growing economies in the world? Or will India's next move catch Washington completely off guard? Because if you thought this was just about oil prices, you're missing the bigger game entirely. Something much larger is brewing, and we're about to see if Trump just triggered a geopolitical chain reaction that he can't control. But what India's quietly planning behind the scenes, that part hasn't even hit the headlines yet. And when it does, the global market might not be ready.